Ready?
Yep.
I was born over a barber shop at 1825 Broadway in Camden, New Jersey. My father operated a barber shop, and we lived in a 9-room house on Broadway where trolleys would go up and down along with horse and wagons. And
Did it smell like a lot of horse manure around that?
No. Well,
the milk was delivered with in a horse and wagon,
yeah.
and so was the ice for the ice box.
You told me the horse knew the way without being told.
Oh yeah.
Oh, yeah.
Let's talk about that. It's so automatic. The guy could fall asleep almost.
And it would be brought in by, what do you want, a 25-cent piece or a 50-cent piece? And it couldn't be any larger because the ice box wouldn't hold it.
Well, so what? You had an ice box, one of those old-fashioned ice box. What else was the kitchen like in the house?
Well, we had a
Well,
large.
we ate in the kitchen.
We had a
We
large.
didn't have any special dining room. And everybody, when we didn't have separate meals, and when it was lunchtime, everybody ate. If it was dinner time, everybody ate. But we all had to accustom ourselves to being brought up in a barber shop, because if there were customers, well then the meal would be delayed because the customers came first.
Okay. So what was your favorite dinner?
Well, naturally it was spaghetti and meatballs every Sunday. And we ate various Italian meals during the week, such as veal scallopini and chicken cacciatore, and
Did you have chickens in the backyard?
no.
No, we had.
No,
we
that you bought in the store. And then when you went to buy a chicken, it wasn't frozen in a supermarket, it was live. And when you brought the live chicken home, somebody had to kill it, clean it, and then
My
cook
mother
it.
did.
Who did it?
My mother.
Grandmom would buy the chicken and she would clean it, and then my mother would cook the meal, we would eat the chicken. And to this day, I'm not a chicken eater.
When you had meals, we were all sitting together. You said, did your parents do most of the talking, or did they let the kids talk?
I would say at that time, most of the parents did the talking.
Yeah. Yeah. My grandmother used to say, mange, mange. Talk later.
Oh, okay.
Mange. Mange means eat.
Well, tell us about your mother. What did she look like? How'd she do her hair? What made her happy or angry?
My mother was, we were held rather strict, I think. Which today is, it's nothing. It would be nothing.
She hit you?
No. No.
Let's tell you where she was born. She was born in Haverhill, Massachusetts.
Yeah. That's where my
And
mother
the
came.
family then moved to Philadelphia, where my grandmother on my mother's side operated a grocery store. And we were all familiar with the stores in Philadelphia on 9th Street and Mulberry Street and Fitzwater Street in Philadelphia, because my mother's relations had various stores in Philadelphia,
Yeah.
bakeries and so forth. But then my grandmother on my mother's side, due to health conditions, moved to Newfield, New Jersey. And that was a farming community. And it was a family of 7 brothers and 2 sisters.
Your mother was one of the sisters.
Right.
Okay.
And then when they got a little more money, then they moved to Vineland, New Jersey, at East and Cambridge Street. And it was a big house. It had to be big. There were 7 sons and 2 daughters.
Right.
So you can imagine the bathroom was quite busy in the morning.
The grandfather,
Indoor plumbing?
Indoor
Oh,
plumbing,
yeah.
yes.
Yeah.
Mhm.
what about your grandfather?
Oh, he-
Grandfather, well, he died before we were born. We don't know much about
Oh, my
my.
mother's father. No, we never knew him. But my other grandfather, he was a son of a gun.
So did your mother work outside the house at any of
No.
these stores that the
No.
family had, you said?
No.
No, family conditions at that time, the women didn't work.
Yeah.
Okay. You can throw in anything if you want to here. Did your parents have nicknames for you?
No, my mother would not allow it.
Oh, really?
No.
So what did they call you then?
The-
Just
They had tried to give us nicknames, kids that we
Uh-huh.
lived with, that we played with, but my mother wouldn't. No, just your name is Leonard,
Well, what was your mother's name?
Teresa.
Tessie.
What was her?
oh, she
nickname?
had a nickname.
Yes,
Well, Tessie was short
Tessie.
for Teresa.
yes.
Yeah. But they called the family called my mother Tessie. Yeah. See, we were different. My father was from the southern part of Italy, but my mother's family were
From Genoa.
Genoa. Yeah,
In Italian, that's known as Genoese.
yeah.
And where my father came from was near Naples, and those people were called Napolitan,
Yeah,
or as we say in English today, Neapolitan.
yeah,
Oh, that's right.
yeah.
So your mother spoke Italian.
No, my mother's mother became quite well with her Italian, but I could never understand their
Dialect.
Yeah.
The Genoese dialect was different from the Neapolitan dialect.
Sing-songy. Yeah.
But you interestingly talked about the traveling they did from Italy to Brazil. Talk about that.
Oh, that was my father, my grandparents. Yeah. Well, they went. Grandpop went first. He went to, and then my grandmother. He wasn't.
They originally went to Santos in Brazil
Yeah.
to work on the coffee plantations.
Uh-huh.
And at that time, they had to go by sailboat. There were no powered vessels.
Amazing.
And did you say you saw slaves there? Wasn't that where there were
Well, my
slaves?
father did because he was taught by the Jesuits in Brazil. And he was fluent in Portuguese because that is the language of Brazil.
Yeah.
How many years was he there?
I don't know, but I would imagine it had to be at least 3 or 4 years. And then from Brazil, they went back to Italy
Amazing.
Oh,
to a town near Naples.
It was
And
called,
in Italian, where they went to was San Bartolomeo,
Yeah.
and that's near Naples.
San Bartolomeo.
And after they stayed there for a little while, then my grandfather emigrated to the United States, and then my grandmother and my father came much later, and they came into the port of immigration at Gloucester, New Jersey.
Mm-hmm.
They didn't go to Ellis Island.
and around what year was that?
Well, you have to look in, that synopsis that I wrote,
I got that.
and those are the dates that I don't remember the dates.
But I mean, he was still
Oh, he had to be.
teenager.
They came to the United States the last time in 1911, around 1910, because I remember him saying that not too much longer after they came here, that's when they bought the property at 1825 Broadway.
Uh-huh.
And there were no.
But when my father first came here with his parents, he went to Philadelphia to learn the occupation as a shoemaker.
Yeah.
But he didn't like that. Then he came and worked in various barber shops in Camden before they bought the property at 1825 Broadway.
Who bought the property? His
My
father?
grandmother and grandfather bought the property, and that had to be around 1911.
Well, for them to acquire that much money
Yeah.
in that short.
I think the property that they bought at that time was $2,000.
That's a lot though.
It was a pretty big house too.
But he must have been saving that up all that time. Then.
Well, my father didn't buy the property. My grandfather and
Right.
grandmother did.
I understand that.
So you
But
you
they,
each
did
had
they
your,
pay cash?
Yeah, everybody
Yeah,
bought.
well,
Everybody paid cash at that time.
Well, I can remember as a child that even my mother and father were great for cash. And I think my father, for years, was great for that cash. Yeah.
so you each had your own room in the house because there was enough rooms in the house. You had your own
Yeah, sure.
bedroom.
My sister had her own bedroom,
Yeah.
and my bedroom was the second bedroom with my brother after he was born. And my grandmother and grandfather had the back bedroom,
Yeah. He had a big house.
and the front bedroom, which was on Broadway, was my mother's and father's bedroom.
And they had a car too, didn't they?
My
They were the
father
first cars?
bought the first car in
Jeez, I don't remember.
I guess it had to be around 1920, or maybe a little before
I
that.
think before that.
hmm
Because I always remembered a car. We always had a car. I always remember that.
But not many people did have cars back then, right?
Oh no, my father made a lot of money with his car. Worked for every undertaker. Had people got married. Not in those days, people didn't have automobiles. And my father would have a wedding or a christening,
So
and
he would rent the car.
he would drive it. He never let anybody drive his car. No. Mm-mm.
And they were jazzy cars. They had curtains in the
fancy,
back
yeah.
window,
Wow.
and they had little vases on either side of the back where you would put flowers
Yeah.
because they would be rented out for weddings and christenings.
Yeah. Yeah.
You have heaters in them?
I don't know. There
No.
were no heaters at that time.
No, at that time, no. I remember when we had them, but I can remember when we used to take blankets in the car. If we were going away, my mother said, "Well, don't forget when you come downstairs, bring the blankets."
In 1920 or whatever year that was
Oh,
there an automatic starter or did you have to crank it?
I don't know, John. I was born in 1920.
They wouldn't tell you.
no, I can. My father always took care of his car, though. Always.
So what was your favorite thing to do when you were a boy, Uncle Len?
I would play catch with my Jewish boyfriend
He played with all Jews. That's true.
in our neighborhood. There weren't many Italians on Broadway. In other words, Camden at that time was a city of neighborhoods.
Yeah.
But we really weren't we were in a mixed neighborhood
Yeah.
because in the block that where my father had the barber shop, in our next neighbor, adjacent to us was a Chinese wash where they washed and starched stiff collars that they wore at that time.
Yeah.
So there was a Chinese laundry on one side of my father's barber shop. On the other side was an Italian family of 12 kids, and he was a shoemaker.
He made shoes.
Then adjacent to the shoemaker was an Italian grocery store.
Yeah.
In that same block were Jewish people who
Yeah.
maintained stationery stores where they had a fountain and they sold newspapers and penny candy.
We had-
Across the street was the Star Theater, and there you went, for 10 cents you went to the movies.
That's right. We used to go to movies for a dime.
In the
Silent
same,
movies? Were they silent movies?
no, they were
Well, after
talk,
1927,
No.
they weren't.
Okay.
but in the same block there were Jewish
That's
delicatessen, a German bakery,
Yeah.
Around the corner from us was an Italian bakery. There were Jewish
We had Jewish neighbors.
meat markets.
Yeah.
What about
So-
the patent medicine?
Well, that's where my boyfriend, Paul Zonies, his father had a store across the street that sold patent medicine, and he had a soda fountain also.
Yeah.
And they sold newspapers.
And we have the movie house. We were
Right.
lucky. And our church was up the street. Everything was in our reach.
What was your favorite thing to do when you were a girl?
Me,
Yeah.
I was a real tomboy.
So what'd you do?
Climbing fences, playing with boys.
Jump rope or
I jumped. I had the first. What do you call it? The you know what we used to skate on.
We had skates.
Skates. We had everything.
But we lived in a neighborhood that had a lot of churches. So
Yeah.
we lived in what kind of a row?
Across the street was the.
Where did we live? We lived in the churches. What did they call that? What did we say where we lived?
I forget.
Did
Well,
we
those
say we
church-
lived in Holy Row?
Holy Row. That's right.
And why did we call? Why was it called Holy Row?
Because we had our house faced the
Methodist Church.
Up the street was the Catholic Church. Down the street was the High Episcopal Church.
Got it.
And we had an awful lot of churches.
where was the
Our-
synagogues? If there was
Well,
one.
the synagogue was about 3 blocks away.
Yeah,
So
Okay, because it had to be synagogue.
yeah, yeah. No, that came into Kane Avenue area, the area where you would have stores. You know, a lot of stores. Yeah.
You said you got a lot of toys by being creative with your father's coupons.
my father, who operated the barber shop, every time at that particular time, they not only gave haircuts, but they gave massages
Yeah.
and mud packs and shampoos.
Yeah.
So he would always buy materials that were used in the shop, and they all came with a coupon on them for shaving soap
Yeah.
or the hair tonics that he bought. So when you saved the coupons, you could send away for little gifts like a BB gun, like a Charlie McCarthy
Always cutting
puppet,
out coupons.
ukulele, ukulele,
You
a
said
baseball glove.
Yes.
Yeah.
So
But what happened to that gun? What did you do?
Oh, my mother locked it in the
Wow,
in the top drawer of the bureau.
get on him, the guy that's laughing.
Why, what'd you do to the gun? BB gun, you said?
Well, when I first got the gun, but the other kids in the neighborhood, I was the only one who had a BB gun. So we'd take it out back, and everybody wanted a turn. So if they didn't get their turn, they'd badmouth you. So I turned around and shot a kid right in the ass. So what did he do? He went home, told his mother. His mother came up and the shop was busy at that time, and she came in the barber shop and she said, "Your son shot my kid in the ass with a BB gun." At the same time, there were policemen that patrolled.
Yeah.
We had walking patrolmen
Yeah.
that lived in the area. At that particular time, when that woman came in the barber shop, John Hallowell, the local policeman, he was getting a shave. My father called me in the shop, and my father never laid a hand on us, but I noticed he had fire in his eyes. And he says, "Where's the BB gun?" So he took the BB gun, and that stayed in a closet for a long time because I wasn't allowed to use it.
I think that's a good place to stop for today.
I was born in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where my parents lived at the time of my birth, which was quite a while ago.
When?
When I was born in 1918,
What's the date?
March the 2nd. And I went to public schools there. I think it was for the children. What do they call it? But not very long, because my father had gotten a job with a biscuits company, and so we moved down to the Atlantic City then. It's where he had stores to follow up.
A biscuit company?
Yes, Loose Wild Biscuit Company, I think it was, or else it was a National Biscuit Company, one or the other. And they're in all commercial stores, the biscuits are. So,
Well, what do you remember about Philadelphia?
well, I remember Philadelphia mainly because my aunt and mother had lived there. My aunt still lives there, but my mother was there, of course, when I was born. And it was in the Kensington part of Philadelphia, not a really great neighborhood. But it was okay. So anyhow, my father then had gotten, before I stayed there very long, he had gotten a job with a biscuit company, and they sent him down to the southern area of New Jersey to take the stores there. So I didn't stay in Philadelphia very long. And so we settled in, I can't remember where it was exactly, but somewhere in New Jersey.
In Atlantic City.
Hmm?
In the inlet section of Atlantic City.
Yeah. So, that's it.
What do you remember about Atlantic City? When you were a child?
Well, I wasn't really young. I think I might have been 7 or 8 at the time I got there, and I liked Atlantic City. We had a house that was across from in Atlantic City at the end of the inlet, it's called. They had this park, and that was where the our house was across the street from the park. And it was a nice place. I mean, I liked it. And then of course, when school time came, I had to go to the schools there. And it was different in Philly, but I liked that also. They were, I didn't realize it at the time, but I think they were nicer people than the Philadelphians that I had. So, that's about it.
What kind of games did you play?
I don't know. Don't remember.
What do you remember about the house?
Well, I know Mom had purchased I don't know, I shouldn't say purchased. We had a piano, and whether she rented it or bought it, I couldn't tell you, but anyhow, it was there in the house. And she had me take lessons, which I wasn't any great deal at, but I did for a while. And that was that. And,
Was it an apartment?
oh no, it was a house
Okay.
in Atlantic City, and it was up the inlet section as far as you can go. It was right across from the playground.
And what do you remember about your brother?
Not much. Ernie was 7 years older than I, so we didn't have much in common. We didn't play together or anything like that. I just knew he was my brother, and that was all.
Well, what did your mother do all day? What did she like to do? Did she work outside the house?
No, she's always did housework and stayed around the house. She never worked outside. In Philadelphia that I can think of, she may have, but I don't remember it.
What'd your father look like?
Had a nice face, and he was a salesman for Sunshine Biscuits, a biscuit company. He worked there for a while, and I think he made out pretty well on that job.
Did you have a car? Was there a car in the family growing up?
I can't remember. That's enough. I can't remember whether we had a car. I mean, I guess we did. It seems to me we always had a car.
Did Nanny like to cook?
No, she wasn't crazy about cooking at all. Of course, she did what she had to do without any apologies. I mean, she went ahead and did it, but she wasn't crazy about cooking.
What'd you do when it was your birthday? What kind of birthday parties would you have?
I didn't have any, I don't think. I don't recall them.
Would you go to the beach a lot?
Well, when we moved down here, then we moved to Atlantic City.
Clear your throat.
And my father was a salesman for Sunshine Biscuit Company. And he was down here in New Jersey, and that's how come we moved down also. We rented a house. And we moved up was the inlet, which is across from the playground there. And I liked that, and I went to school.
Smear
I
yourself
think
up.
I was in the 3rd grade.
Did you have your own room in the house? Your own bedroom?
Yes.
There's something else. Okay, we'll stop there today. It is Marie's, what's your middle name?
Henrietta.
Marie Henrietta Viola Erichetti's 86th birthday. What was 2 days ago? So now we're talking to her about her birthday, and she's going to stop picking at her chin.
Oh, I'm not picking. I didn't touch it.
What did you used to do for birthday parties when you were a kid?
Well, the kids that lived in our vicinity, we'd celebrate each other's birthday. So when it was my birthday, that was in September. And we always had a party. My mother would have a party for us, for me. And that's about it.
So the
Then
kids they'd come over to the house?
Oh yeah, oh yeah.
Would they be all dressed up in party dresses?
No, we didn't do that, no.
And did you play games?
I guess we did, yeah, as much as I can remember.
What kind of games?
I don't know what games were in use at that time. But most of us ran up and down the alley. We had a big alley. Our house was the dead end house. You couldn't go any further because garages were there. So we'd run up and down the alley. That was almost the size of a big street for us.
Okay, so did you play like jump rope or with balls and
yeah.
stuff like that?
Oh yeah.
All right, so outside games. And this was in Camden, right?
Right.
What was your address?
1825 Broadway.
All right. What kind of stores were it that you could walk to? What kind of stores were it?
We had a grocery store was 2 doors away. It was Italian grocery, but they sold American stuff too. We had an A&P and an American store up the street. And then there were a lot of small stores in our area, you know, which were Jewish people that lived there had stores. and we had a lot of Polish people in our neighborhood, and it was a pretty close class of people that lived there.
Everybody was very neighborly.
Oh, well, you picked what you liked. You know, if you were nice to your neighbor, but if you didn't particularly like her, you know, it was only the time of day. And just something like to hold up, say, they would be going out and they knew that the mailman would be around, so we would pick up their, you know, their paper for them.
Okay. So did you have your own bedroom in the house?
Yes, I had my own bedroom. I was the only girl.
Right. That's right. 2 brothers, so you had your own bedroom.
I had my own bedroom.
Did you have any pets?
My mother didn't particularly like it. She didn't like pets in the house. Or right outside if he stayed outside, but not in the house.
So did you ever have a dog or anything?
We had him, but it's short-lived.
Do you remember what your first job was?
First job. Well, my mother wanted me to become something. So she said, "Why don't you try things, you know?" So at that time, hairdressing was just coming into
Vogue.
vogue. Yeah, that's true. And so my mother says, "You want to go to hairdressing school? That's a clean job." So I went. I went to school in Philadelphia, not in Camden, which had better schools in Philly. But I got a job right away in Camden.
So had you take the train over to Philadelphia?
I don't know if we had the subway then. I really can't remember.
Or a ferry boat?
We could go over by bus too
Okay.
to Philadelphia, because the buses used to pass our house.
Right. Okay. Did you ride the bus by yourself? How old were you?
Oh, yeah.
When you were going to school?
When I was going to school for
Hairdressing.
Oh, I don't know, maybe 16, maybe even less. I don't know. I don't know
Okay.
if they took it.
So then you went and you got a job right away in
Well,
Camden?
sure, my father knew a lot of people, and I got a job which was practically nothing if you think of it today. But my mother says, "Look, you keep going up. You always try to make yourself a little bit higher." I went to work at Otto's. He had a big place. And being Italian,
Uh-huh.
both of us wasn't bad either, you know.
Uh-huh.
So I worked. I can't remember what I made, but that wasn't. My mother just wanted me in a place not to have any trouble. That's it. You know, daytime, a lot of girls running the streets. Well, my mother had thought of that.
Right. So where'd you meet your husband?
Well, Vete had a sister who was married to one of our neighbors around the corner, Tom. His name was Tom. And, well, Tom used to always be in and out of my father's barber shop. And, I mean, we were had a neighborly neighborhood. And the Italians stuck pretty close together, too. But we were Italians, Jews, Poles, Russians, everything you could think of. So that's why we were grown up with, so what? So he's a Polak, so what? You know? We never, my mother would never put up with anything like that. No, we were very well trained. Very well.
But you still married an Italian, though.
Well, but hey, look, I like the Jewish boys in our neighborhood. I didn't particularly like the group that was in our neighborhood, that's all. The Italian boys, I didn't know. But if he was Italian and was schooled or something like that, we'd say, oh, well, he's got class, you know. You know, we always thought of class.
Okay.
I did.
All right, so you met him through
Well,
through
no,
a friend, like a friend of a friend kind
no,
of thing.
I met them because Veet had his brother-in-law Tom and Millie lived around a quarter from us.
Okay.
And we knew Tom for years. And I knew Veet even before, you know, I even thought about it.
Right.
And then as we grew older, the first thing I knew, he was going to open a dry cleaning place.
Uh-huh.
He had worked, he always worked as a kid, from high school, and he always had a job. So he had never had any problem that way. And that's how I got to meet him.
So he opened the dry cleaners before you got married?
Oh yeah. Oh
All
yeah.
right, but then he went off to the war.
Well, he closed his business. He, see, then after he closed the business next door to us, when he opened up, when he came home, he took all his mother's wide driving road
Uh-huh.
and the shop that they had in the back. He built his business there.
Well, what kind of shop did they have before it was a dry cleaners?
Didn't have it.
Okay.
No, it was just they had a big house and a big wide driveway.
Right.
And my mother-in-law didn't want to live among the Italian people. She wanted to go with the Polish people.
Okay.
And that's why that was always called Polak town, because the people were the Polish people were clean. If you found a dirty Polak, that's something. They were very clean.
Yeah, Robert said he used to, he remembered them scrubbing their doorsteps.
Yeah.
Because they were marble though, weren't they? Did they have marble doorsteps?
I don't know. No, they had different types.
Yeah.
Everybody had something different, but they were the cleanest people you ever want to know. Yeah. See, we lived on Broadway. We had a lot of Jewish and Italian, Poles. We had all nations in camp where I lived, but theirs, where they lived in Polak Town, as we used to call it, had a little more class.
Tell me about your wedding. What, did he ask you to get married before he went to the war?
He said he wouldn't. No, he said he wouldn't marry. I'd have to wait. He says, if you can't wait, well, then he says you better look for somebody else. But he says, I will not leave you
A widow? But did he give you a ring? Were you engaged?
Yeah.
You were engaged.
This
Okay.
ring I'm wearing, still wearing.
Okay. So then he came back. What kind of wedding did you have?
Oh, we were married on Easter Monday.
A Monday.
Yeah, well, Easter Monday is celebrated, you know, and so he says, we're getting married Easter Monday. I did everything he wanted because I thought he came home safe, so I don't care if we don't have a big wedding, you know. But we didn't have a big wedding, we had a nice wedding. It was nice. We only had a few outsiders, and the rest was family, which was the other caddies, as we always called them. And we didn't have a great big wedding, but we had a nice wedding.
Where was the reception?
Up in Camden, and it's still in business. It was
A restaurant or a hall?
restaurant, dining room, and a nice place where we got married.
And what was you got married there too? We got married in the church.
Oh, we
Oh
got married
yeah.
in Sacred Heart Church.
Sacred Heart.
Yeah. Which the priests were all our friends, my friends and Veet's friends. We had 2 priests on the altar.
Okay.
And we had a nice wedding. We had a pretty big wedding, but it was mostly intimate people and family. You know, not that many outsiders, no.
Okay. And how soon after you got married did you have Billy?
The next year,
The next year.
yeah.
Okay. And when did you move to oh yeah, well I know when you moved to Camden. You didn't move to Camden until Bobby was 5. Why did you wait 5 years before you had another kid? Was that intentional?
Well, that was Vete's idea.
He wanted to wait?
He says he was satisfied with Billy. I said, I will not have one child. I said, I don't like it. And I said, I'd rather have 2 kids that have to battle. So, but they were far apart enough.
Yeah, but they didn't fight too much.
No.
No, 5 years is good.
Yeah. And then, of course, where we lived was a lot of kids.
Right.
Jewish. We had a lot of Jewish kids. My kids were raised with mostly Jews.
Well, until you moved to Westmont.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then you worked at the cleaners too, huh?
No, I only worked if Veet needed me. But then later on, when the boys grew up, what was I going to do staying home?
Right, so you just went in just
I
to
went in and, yeah.
for something to
If
do.
he needed extra help on pressing, well, I could get on a press machine. And I took care of customers. My mother-in-law, Veet bought his mother's house and gave her the house next door to him. He bought that house. She said she didn't want to be away from the cleaning plant. She said she had been there all those years. And she says, if you buy the house next door, me like. She said, me like. So he bought the house next door. She was happy, and Veet drew a nice business. He didn't only drew a business from Camden. He had people coming in from Haddonfield and all over.
Right.
But he worked hard. He worked hard.
I know he did. Let's see.
And he always read. Always read. It's a shame he couldn't have an education, you know?
Yeah, I know that he always liked to do
People
that.
would come in, customers, guys that had jobs that, you know, you said, boy, he must make money. But Veet could talk to anybody. And they were always impressed with him. He wasn't a show-off. No. It's a shame he never got an education.
Yeah. Why didn't he?
Well, the family was large. My father-in-law didn't make a lot of money. They always owned their own house. My mother-in-law was, you couldn't touch her. Don't touch me. The girls used to get mad at me sometimes. She said, I went to the store and I saw so-and-so. And she said,
Hey, gentlemen, I'm interviewing in here. Your mother-in-law, you couldn't touch you. I don't understand.
well, my mother-in-law just, her family was everything. Everything. She had the best kids, and the girls would say, Mom, you had your hands full with Rosie. You had your hands full. But it was that the children, Millie was a bright girl. She was. She never had a chance. But she was they were no dummies. None of them. The only one that was the slowest of all of them was my sister-in-law Rose and she would say in the well, Rose wasn't as educated, but Veet did a lot for himself. He did a lot for himself. My sister-in-law Phil was no dummy. She was no dummy. Dolores was spoiled, right? But they were a good-looking family.
Yeah.
Every one of them. My brother-in-law Danny married when he was young. And he says, I always said I would never marry at a young age. He said, because it's not what I wanted.
Right.
So they came from a good background. They really did. And all of them, I don't know, did you eat them all?
Not all of them.
All of them were, my brother-in-law Daddy was with me. Junior, Junior was spoiled. He was a baby, the family baby boy. Dolores, she was spoiled rotten. She was adorable. She was cute when she was little. Phil was pretty. My sister-in-law Phil was pretty. They were a good-looking family. This is the first time I'm talking like this about them. I mean,
Why? Usually you talk bad about them or what?
no, I can't say that. No. But
Well, how old was Dolores when you met?
Dolores was a little bitty thing.
Yeah.
Yeah, she was the baby. My mother-in-law had her change her life. Oh, she was embarrassed. Embarrassed? Well, she says, you know, at my age, I said, well, you can have it with another man. I said.
Right.
My mother-in-law was good looking. But both of them, my father-in-law. But my...
Okay, miss, how you doing?
All right.
All right.
Hello, John.
Hello, Marie. Happy birthday again.
Gee, is it my birthday?
Yeah.
Oh, thank you. I didn't even think about it.
Oh, good. Am I interrupting? Go ahead.
That's
How's
all right.
Rosie?
Okay, they say.
Yeah.
What are you most proud of? What were some of your proudest moments?
One of my proudest moments, but I got a car.
Got a car? Yeah?
Yeah.
How old were you?
Oh, I was married.
Okay, but you got your own
I
car.
got my own car. I could drive a car better than Vee
Right.
when I started because we always had a car. We always pretended we were driving, so Vee never had that.
Do you remember what kind of car it was? Okay. What do you want your grandchildren to remember about you?
Well, they always yelled, let's go to Grandma. That's all they ever yelled. Let's go to Grandma. Okay.
Your grandchildren.
My grandchildren.
Yeah. Like Billy, Lauren and Peter and these guys. What do you want them to remember about you?
Oh, well, they remember because they got plenty of money.
Yeah.
And always got birthday presents. The kids liked me. Yeah, they did. They did. Let's go to Nan's. Let's go. Every time they get ready and say, we go to Nan's today, and Mother used to say, for God's sake, don't you think Nan gets sick of looking at you?
Do you remember taking care of Chelsea when she was a baby?
Yeah, yeah.
Chelsea and Cheryl, come on out here. Let me take a video of you and Nan. I'm asking Nan questions about when she was little. Go and stand on either side of her for her birthday. Here she is with her grandchildren now, with Chelsea and Cheryl. And she has grown-up grandchildren too. Talk about a lot of difference. Oh, look at this. Are you posing?
Yeah.
And there's Chelsea too. All right, Cheryl, let me zoom in. I'll zoom in. There's Cheryl. And then there's Nan. Do they look alike? I don't know. And then Chelsea. All right, that was good. Okay, we're gonna